Welcome, Roster Wars, to the United Nations Rookie Summit. Today we're covering the defensive tackle class. I'm your host, Corbin, along with Ross. How we doing, bud?
I'm doing great. We're down Tyler this week, so I don't know. We'll need to up the crazy a wee bit, up the quirkiness between me and yourself. But no,
Yeah,
let's get into it.
yeah, it's gonna be hard to go on without that quirkiness. We like having Tyler there for that. But hey, I'm unemployed this week, and Ross, you're halfway across the world, so I'm glad to record this on Tuesday. Wait, is it Tuesday? No, Wednesday afternoon. Can't even keep track of my days right now. That's what unemployed life does to you. But yeah, let's hop into it here. We've got 4D tackles we're going to talk about today. Mason Graham out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant, also from U of M, Derek Harmon from Oregon, and Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. But let's just take a look back at last year and see how we did on our rankings and our sleepers. Ross, I think you got that for us. Take it away.
Yeah, I'll do my best Tyler impression this week. So we only did two guys last year, um, Byron Murphy and Jerzan Newton. Murphy went in the first round, Newton went in the second round to the Commanders. Um, and me and you seem very similarly. We both had Newton first over Murphy, and Tyler had Murphy over Newton. Not much in the year one from these guys. I think Newton towards the end of the season was getting a bit more playing time after an injury, and Murphy just didn't get much. They had quite a deep defensive line there. So yeah, in the years to come, we'll see how that shakes out. But no crazy rookie years from either guy. But our sleepers. So I had Michael Hall, who ended up going to Cleveland. Didn't do much. Tyler had Tavondre Sweat, who went to the Titans and had a decent season, I thought. Um, but definitely the winner was yourself, Corbin. You took Braden Fisk. So went to the Rams, had a great rookie season by NFL terms. He finished in fantasy as the 28th overall defensive tackle, which is pretty good for a rookie, and looks quite promising as well. I think you've got a good one there, um,
Yeah.
as your sleeper. So yeah.
Yeah, I did like Braden Fisk quite a bit coming out. Yeah, I mean, with Newton and Murphy, I mean, you got your three tech versus your nose tackle debate here. And so we'll kind of get into that a little bit today, mostly talking about some three tech guys, but we do have one nose on the list here. So let's hop right into it with our first guy, Mason Graham out of Michigan. 21 years old, junior coming out, measured in at 6'3", 296 pounds. There's no RAS score for this guy. He's got average size, average bench. That's the only thing that he tested for at the combine. Maybe he had his pro day yet. I don't have those numbers. But last year he had 45 tackles. 23 of those were solo with 7 TFLs and 3.5 sacks. And then similar production in 2023, 36 tackles, 23 solo, 8 TFLs, and 3 sacks. So, I mean, this is a guy that you've been seeing, mocked in sometimes like the top 5. Feel like he's kind of shifted back to a top 10 kind of guy. I've heard that NFL scouts and personnel are not as high on him as some of the media is, but this is a guy who you can line up anywhere on the defensive line. He's primarily a three tech D tackle, but he can go anywhere 3 to 5. He's got 3 solid years of production at Michigan and national championship. So he's got the pedigree, he's got the stats. It seems like he's got the profile. Is this guy the whole package, Ross?
Not the whole package, but yeah, I see why maybe some of the league are maybe falling them down a wee bit. Um, from their perspective, I would say. So the athleticism isn't quite there. He didn't test, but I don't think it was a I'm not testing because I'm going to go top five. I think it was maybe hiding some shortcomings potentially. But we don't know that for sure, so we can't say that. And he's got short arms as well. So that's the chatter you hear from the NFL scouts why maybe he's fallen closer to the end of the top 10 rather than where he was getting maybe top four buzz early on. But I like him. You turn on the tape and it's a different story. Like he is a very good player in college anyway, and he's been that for a couple of years now. What I love about him is he wins with power and the shock that he's got in his hands as well to like bull rush defenders back, and he really shocks them and gives them a jolt. And or he could swat them aside, use a club or a swim move, and he can instantly get in the backfield. It's like so quickly he can win straight off the snap. And the run game as well. I think he's an all-round player. He's got incredible strength. He was double teamed a lot last year, and that just goes to show how good he is and the respect that he got from offensive teams, and he's able to absorb those double teams. He can anchor, hold two guys at once without losing ground in the run game as well. And it's just that incredible balance and just like sliding protections like into his side, and he's not moving an inch. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think when you turn on the tape, he can do a bit of everything. I don't think his upside as a pass rusher is quite there. But I could be wrong, could go to the next level, and that power could just translate instantly. We saw a guy, slightly different position, but Jared Verse last year. The power was just so overwhelming that it just became instantly one of the best in the NFL. And Mason Graham might be similar. He might be a pass rushing defensive tackle because of that attribute.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think he has room to grow as a pass rusher for sure. He does rely a lot on power. It's really just bull rush only. And, you can get by with that. But if you want to be the guy who's, a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, you kind of have to be the whole package. He does have pretty consistent production getting into the backfield, not just the sack numbers. I mean, 3 sacks between the last years, but I mean, he's got 15 TFLs too. So he understands how to get in the backfield. He's relentless. He has great motor. He's running sideline to sideline, chasing down the ball carrier. I mean, to take a page out of Tyler's book, he's a former wrestler. So when you say like he has that power, he knows how to anchor himself in the hole, and it helps linebackers come in and clean up the play, or anchor yourself in the hole so you can quick make an adjustment and tackle the ball carrier, and you get those stats for your fantasy team. So really explosive first step, and I talked about that with the edge rushing class. That's one of the most important attributes you can have as a pass rusher, so I do like to see that. But you did mention his shorter arms. He only has 32-inch arms, so I believe the where you want to be is about 33. And you can see it in his tape when defenders get into him. He has a hard time disengaging when he's dealing with some of these longer off tackles. So that's something to work on. But yeah, I mean, he's a really powerful guy, like relying on that bull rush. I mean, he plays great against the run. I really have no knocks on that. It's just questions about his pass rush ability. And I think he can easily develop into one of the better tackles in the NFL. So I do like him a lot. I mean, I see why he's being hyped a top 10 pick, but there are a lot of other good defensive tackles in this class. So do you really want to reach into the top 10 to get him when you can get a guy who's pretty similar top 25? That's the biggest question. But in terms of fantasy value, I think he's a great ad. With defensive players, it's kind of all over the board, but I think he'll be the very first defensive tackle that we've seen taken in the roster wars draft.
Yeah, I think it depends on the draft capital. So I think it tends to follow the draft. So if he's a top DT taken in the NFL, roster wars tends to follow suit. I don't think there's many examples where it doesn't go by that. Um, Even if there's this guy's first rounder, Kenneth Grant's a first rounder, I think that will still follow. I don't know how high I would take him, to be honest. Yeah, need to get round to do my finished rankings there, but yeah, I think he's definitely a guy who can contribute. And like you said, he can hold his own in the run game, so he's could be a 3 down player earlier on. He's not like a liability in that side of things, so he could mop up some tackles, and the high motor's obviously good for fantasy wise as well, I think.
Hmm. Exactly. And keep an eye on some of these defensive tackles where they go, their edge partners will benefit just because they are
Yeah.
commanding so much attention in the interior. And like these 4 guys, I mean, they're all really, really good prospects. So adding that to your defensive line is going to free things up for a lot of other players on that team. So just another thing to keep an eye on. But let's move it on here to Kenneth Grant, our one nose tackle for today. Coming out of Michigan, also 21-year-old junior, measured in at 6'4", 331 pounds. That's a big boy with a 717 RAS, which is pretty darn. He's got elite size, poor bench score, not that big of a deal. Pretty average 40, but he did have a great 10-yard split, which is a more important factor, in my opinion, for defensive tackle. He's got good explosion, good agility scores as well. Last year, 32 tackles, 18 of those were solo with 7 TFLs and 3 sacks. The year before, 2023, 29 tackles, 16 of those solo with 5 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, and an interception to go on top. So pretty similar stats to Mason Graham. He's got 2 years of solid production. He is just a nose tackle only. He's not going to give you a whole lot of juice in the pass rush. Is he a guy that could be a valuable fantasy contributor? Or is he just a space eater kind of guy that's going to free things up for everybody else on the defense?
I think right now he's maybe more of a space eater. But how valuable are those guys in fantasy? So you look at someone like Grover Stewart, who's now among men, I believe. Um, he's maybe just soaking up the rundowns. Maybe he'll chip in with a couple sacks through effort and through luck, to be honest. But so I'm always not sure with these defensive tackles. Like, do you want the tackles or do you want the stat? Do you want him to get tackles or do you want a little bit more of the pass rush upside? And Kenneth Grant, he's just going to be in the run game straight away. Like he's going to be a good contributor in the run game straight away. You mentioned the size. Like he's got the strength to back that up as well. He's not just a big man. He does everything you want to do with him being a big man. He's got um the strange thing about him, like he's got like 10 past defenses in the last 10 years, in the last 2 years, 10 in the last 2 years. If he can't get to the QB, he's like jumping up and he's getting his long arms. He's got long arms, he gets them in the way as well. So he's finding ways to be a little bit more disruptive. I think a lot of people see him that has more upside than maybe I see him. I didn't see him consistently get there as a pass rusher, even as a power rusher, to be honest. Like I think he could have showed me a bit more with the size that you're expecting. But I think a lot of people see him as like maybe more of a freak athlete than he is. I think he's a good athlete, and he did, like you said, the 10-yard split was good. But I'm not sure if people maybe expecting like a 9 or a 10 RAS, and we're maybe projecting the pass rushing upside from there. I don't quite see it right now, but yeah, I think he's a nose tackle, who can be like at least a two down guy straight away. Whether he can develop or not, I'm not sure. What do you think? Do you think he can develop into more than just that kind of guy?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's encouraging to see those sack numbers. I mean, he has no problem getting into the backfield. My biggest concern with him is he's just very inconsistent. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, well, for one, he's very slow off the line of scrimmage, and when that happens, sometimes he just stands up straight and he can just get washed down by offensive linemen. So he's got to work on his pad level. But then there's other times where you see him fighting off splitting teams without any problem. He's got really good hands, very powerful hands, and there is a little bit of a base of pass rush there. He has a couple of tricks in his bag for sure, so there is promise. I do think there is upside there just because, most nose tackles are first, second down packages. They come off in passing downs. But I do think that teams could utilize him as their big tackle during pass rush snaps. So I do think he shows a lot of promise. I mean, maybe not as much upside as some of these other guys, but definitely a guy I've got my eye on. I want to see where he goes and kind of the defense that he goes to. Depending on how he's used, that might be a pretty good indicator on his fantasy impact for us. So, yeah, I mean, another good guy for sure. I mean, he's getting first round attention, and I can see why. But in the past, you don't really see teams value that nose tackle position. They like to get their three tech, somebody who's a little bit more versatile than nose tackle only. So we'll see where he goes and how he'll be used. But move it on here and get to Derek Harmon coming out of Oregon, a 21-year-old junior Michigan State transfer. Measured in at 6'4", 313 pounds, no res to speak of, but he's got elite size. I saw he had a 4.9, 440 with good splits on that as well. Last year at Oregon, 45 tackles, 27 of those solo, with 11 TFLs, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. At Michigan State, the year before, he had 40 tackles, 16 of those solo, 4 TFLs, a sack and a half, and another forced fumble. So now this is a guy similar to Mason Graham. You can kind of move him all over. I think a lot of teams would like to see him as that three-tech defensive tackle, the smaller one, paired up with the nose. But he has the versatility to go nose all the way out to 5. Just a good size, good length, really strong defensive tackle. I think he does a lot of things well. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, yeah. I actually love Derek Hammond. And like you said, he's got that versatility across the line. He's very athletic. Obviously, you talked about the running numbers. But yeah, long arms, 90th percentile wingspan as well. So very long arms, and you want that on the inside to play with a bit more leverage and hold your guy up across from you. And he's just an explosive player. He's got a quick get off. When he plays with low pad level, he gets into the backfield right away. He drives low off the snap through the line and just causes disruption. And that's what he does. The whole year last year, he was just a disruptive player. And he was making an impact on like every single play. Like that's a guy we're going to talk about later on. not quite. I don't see them same. The thing about Derek Hammond is every single play you're getting something from him, whether he's holding the point of attack in the run game or just being in the backfield against affecting the passer really. I think he could work on finishing off some plays, particularly the Ohio State game. He was very, very good. He was so disruptive and always in the backfield, but he could have had like an extra 2 sacks and like a big tackle for loss if he just finished his plays. So I don't know if it's maybe a bit of agility, try to see where the, the quarterback's going or not. I don't know if it's a physical thing that he can't do, or maybe it's just luck. Maybe just needs to work on something with a bit better coaching. But that's the one sort of maybe weakness I said. But like I said, plays every play, he's winning his matchup, very impactful. I wrote down some stats as well. You got so the sacks for these guys are all very similar. All got like 5, 6, 7 sacks. But Hammond had 43 hurries in 2024. Graham had 20, Grant 23, and Nolan, who we're going to talk about, 25. So he played a couple more games, but he had really, really good numbers and just affecting the passer. That's what I really love about him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like him a lot, and I think that he should be going in the first round. You kind of saw him first rounder earlier on in the process, and now you're seeing him pretty consistently go around like 15 to 25. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about him. I mean, he's got the great first step, which I like to see. Like I said, he's just very, very savvy at everything. Powerful hand. He's actually pretty nice in terms of his development as a pass rusher, too. I saw him use a rip move, bull rush. He's got some room to add some moves in there, but has a really good understanding of leverage, and he can really anchor down that line, slip past blocks, and get into the battle to clean up and make a play. A lot of sources that I've seen have kind of called him very top heavy, like almost like a refrigerator on stilts. I mean, I don't think that's too much of a concern of his play, because like I saw that, and then you watch the tape, and when it comes to leverage and balance, I mean, he's got it. So yeah, there was a couple of arm tackles that I saw in there, and then watching at Michigan State, the motor was a little inconsistent, but when you see it, like it's on. So I don't know if that was just coached out of him. Oregon's obviously competing for a national championship, and Michigan State was in the toilet, so that might have something to do with it. I don't know. But every concern I had with that at Oregon, I mean, I had no evidence to prove that he's taking plays off or anything like that. So I'm going to call him a high motor guy, and should be a first round pick for sure. I also like Harmon quite a bit.
Yeah, that's another sort of negative is it's a 1 year production. But I think on the defensive side in general, I think if you've only got 1 year of production, it's maybe not as concerning as maybe like a wide receiver, for example, for fantasy wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys can just flash, and you may be looking for more of the flashes rather than actual production. But Harmon has a bit of both, like a full year, and that was like 16 games, 15, 16 games they played as well. So it's not just a 12-game season. So yeah, 1 year of production, but to me, the production was so good. Like, yeah, I agree. To me, he's a first round player all day of the week. I would actually quite like the Jets to figure out a way to get him. 7's quite high, but we'll figure out a way to get him.
Yeah.
I'd love to have him next to Quinnen Williams.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, like with coaching changes, defensive scheme changes. I mean, it depends. Like it's kind of what we were talking about with the Texas A&M guys, how they were used. So yeah, I mean, depending on where you go, I mean, that can impact your value and, the stat sheet. So yeah, glad he went to Oregon. I mean, he's making a name for himself. He should be a first round pick. So I'm excited to see where he goes. He's on radar for sure. But let's keep it moving here and talk about our last guy. It's going to be Walter Nolen coming out of Ole Miss, 21-year-old junior coming out. He's 6'3", 296 pounds. No RAS score for him either, but good height, poor weight, a little on the smaller side. In 2024 for Ole Miss, he was a Texas A&M transfer. I forgot to mention that. I think he was the #1 recruit in the country a couple of years back, if I'm not mistaken. But last year at Ole Miss, 48, 25 solo, 14 TFLs, and 6.5 sacks. And then in 2023 at Texas A&M, he had 37 tackles, 20 of those solo with no TFLs and 4 sacks. So another guy who's had 3 solid years of production. He's a guy you could have 3 tech and 5. Probably don't want to stick him at nose. He's sub 300 pounds, but another super explosive guy who has a lot of promise when it comes to pass rush. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, promise when it comes to pass rush is definitely the thing on Nolan. He was a second ranked player coming out of high school after Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter was number one, he was two, and then he was obviously the top defensive tackle. But I think he's had good pedigree for a while, and it's maybe not quite shown until this year, and this year was his big breakout. But he's got that explosive first step, and he's like a gap shooting, pass rushing defensive tackle. I think he wins with effort and leg drive as well. And sometimes a bit of hands, but he never gives up on the play, and that's what gets him a few sacks. I think he's lacking a little bit of polish, and like I said, I don't think he's impactful in every play. Maybe just the fact that he's going to be more of a pass rushing kind of guy, definitely in the NFL to start with. Um, and, and yeah, I'm not sure how long it's going to take him to develop. I don't think he's got some power, but it's maybe not strength. So Mason Graham is the exact same size. It's freaky. They're almost exact same measurables. But I think Mason Graham can anchor and take on double teams. I'm not sure I've seen as much of that from Nolan. And sometimes he's just getting like pushed over. And it's from double teams, so what can you expect? But if you're expecting like a top end first round guy and we're comparing him against three other guys who are good, to me, I think he lacked a little bit of that sort of play strength, um, that would make him like a three down guy in the NFL. At least to start with, he could develop that.
Hmm.
So yeah, for me, he's a pass rushing guy only, and I've seen a comp Sheldon Rankins, which I think is pretty spot on. And he had a couple of good fantasy seasons, but overall in general, I think maybe not a every down player you can trust. I would say.
Hmm. See, I agree with you with the fair critique that he has a little ways to go because, like, if you're comparing Walter Nolan and Derek Harmon, and I think for comparison's sake, those are the two that we should be comparing here. I think that they're pretty similar, except I do think that Nolan just has a little bit more of a ceiling because we don't have testing numbers, but you can see his athleticism on tape more
Yeah,
than you can see Derek Harmon's and more consistency. I mean, 3 solid years of production as opposed to one Harmon senior year. I mean, you see it off the line of scrimmage. I think he had one of the best first steps off the line compared to anybody that we're talking about today. So super explosive kind of guy. He has just natural leverage, but again, like there are times you see him get washed down. I mean, he's a shorter arm guy, so he can't really use that as much. He has to rely more on, hitting you first. He can't let guys get into him. And then there are times where, he gets stood up and he can just get washed down. But I think a lot of his issues are coachable, like with the pass rush, for example, like coming out and getting high in his stance. Those are things that can be coached out of him. He is still a really, really young guy, but I mean, he's got the high motor. You see him running sideline to line. He looks more of a natural athlete. And I think he has a really solid base coming into the NFL with a little bit of coaching. I just think he has a little bit more upside than Derek Harmon, but both are very, very good players in their own respect.
yeah, I think that we see him very similarly. Like he look on the plays where he would just get up straight out his stance, like he's lost like all leverage, and he's just relying on that twitchy explosiveness. But
Hmm.
yeah, I suppose yeah, he is an upside play, and maybe a bit more developmental. Developmental sounds bad, but like he can't do anything now, but he can. But yeah, he's
Hmm.
he's maybe got a bit more room to grow. I suppose upside would be the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little bit more athlete than technique for sure. But I mean, it's like when we're talking about these edge guys, NFL doesn't care about your stats. It's more about your traits. And I feel the traits that I see from him, like the tape, he just stands out a little bit more to me. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, but I guess, I would just say upside. I really think that he could take the NFL by storm and become one of the best defensive tackles in the league, with a little bit of refinement for sure, but could be a great three tech defensive tackle. So let's hop into our rankings here. Why don't you kick it off for us? How you got these guys sorted?
Yeah. I really like Derek Harmon, so I'll put Mason Graham first. But I think Harmon's like to me he's 1B, so I'd say 1A
Mm.
Mason Graham, 1B Derek Harmon. Really like him. Then I've got Walter Nolan, just for the pass rushing upside. Kenneth Grant, who projects to me to be a two down player to start with anyway. Um, so yeah, that's how I see them.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I've got Mason Graham first. I just feel like he is more well rounded, and none of these guys are perfect prospects. They got a little bit more growing to do in their own areas, but no critiques when it comes to Mason Graham's rush defense. A little bit better in pass rush for sure, but I think everybody could use a little bit of improvement in that department. So I got Mason Graham 1, Walter Nolan 2, and then Derek Harmon 3. And these guys are right neck and neck. I really just picked Nolan because of the ceiling, and he has a little bit more proof in the stats. So, and then I've got Kenneth Grant last. I mean, I like him, and I do like his promise too. And I even thought about bumping him up a little higher, but something's just telling me I like Nolan Harmon a little bit more. It's not just because he's a nose tackle. I want to say that because I do like to see the production he's had in the pass rushing department, but I think the ceiling's a little bit higher for the 3 tech guys. So, but we can get started on our sleepers here. I'll kick this one off since you gave me your rankings first, and I'm going to go with Darius Alexander out of Toledo. Now he's an older prospect, 24 years old, coming out, senior. I've measured in at 6'4", 305 pounds, but he has a 9.14 RAS score. Great size, 4.95 40 with great splits, great explosion, good agility scores. Last year he had 40 tackles, 17 of those solo with 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 1 interception that was returned for a touchdown. And then 2023 he had 36 tackles, 12 of those solo with 6 TFLs and 4 sacks. Just a two-star prospect coming out of high school. He was a Senior Bowl standout. That's where he first came up on my radar. A guy that wasn't even being talked about, and now he's being spoken like he's going to sneak into the first round, if not like an early second-round pick. But really, really nice first step. I mean, it looks like he shot a cannon when the ball is snapped. So powerful punch, too. He sets an anchor. He could play anywhere from nose to 5, probably more suited as like a 3 to 5 tech kind of guy. Long, powerful arms. I mean, he's batting balls at the line of scrimmage. You saw it in the Senior Bowl, too. But obviously, smaller school prospect. He's an older prospect as well. The pass rush that I saw from him was more based on pure athleticism, so he needs to kind of develop a plan and some more moves that add to his arsenal there, and a little bit of an inconsistent motor too. I think a lot of things with him are very coachable, and he could be a really, really good player depending on what defense he lands on. So.
Yeah, I bet if I guess who you're going to pick, it was going to be him. You love your Senior Bowl guys, and it is validated. Like it is guys you're playing against your peers. Obviously, the big knock on Alexander is he's from Toledo, and we've seen that. Well, last year with Quinion Mitchell, it wasn't an issue because he was so good, and so Alexander may be the case. And obviously, when you're at the Senior Bowl, you're playing against, like you said, your peers, guys who are maybe. I think it was against the guys like Josh Connerly, who's like first round kind of guy, fringe first round kind of guy, Gray Zabel. So yeah, he done well by all accounts there. So yeah, I think like I said, fringe first rounder. I think he's definitely draftable in roster wars for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you can knock the Senior Bowl, but I'm just saying, man, like it's
I'm not
worked
knocking
out.
it.
Like
No.
I know, but like I do pick it because it really shows you how these guys perform when stacked up against NFL talent. It's just so inconsistent. Like the different systems, the different teams, like the different balance of skill set. So you just take all that away, and it's just one-on-one drills, like man on man, who's going to win. And when the small school prospects get a chance to step up, like you mentioned, Gray Zabel, look at what he did. Now he's a first round. He was on nobody's radar. So it's a good way to find some of these diamonds in the rough. And I think that Darius Alexander did a really nice job when he was at the Senior Bowl this year. So, but who do you got for us, Ross? Who's the next Aaron Donald? I know you got him.
Well, I didn't know I was looking for the next Aaron Donald. Maybe we'd pick someone different. But I'm going for Joshua Farmer out of Florida State. 6'3", 303 pounds. His RAS was 7.88, but he's got like insanely long arms. He's 35-inch arms, which is 94th percentile. And this year he was like a one-man band on Florida State. Like their defensive front like had no one else, and he was getting all the double teams. He was getting sort of run game schemed like away from him, and I suppose that's the ultimate respect for a guy. But in terms of his play, incredible play strength. Like he holds the point of attack well in the run game, and uses his power to create disruption in the pass game. I think as a power rusher, he's really, really good. He can work on sort of his maybe finesse moves, his hand technique. But I think his explosiveness as a pass rusher from the snap um, he- is really good. Like he flashes it, it's not as consistent. Maybe because he's soaking up double teams all game long, he's getting worn out. But I think the strength, the power, and the effort, he's like a really high motor guy as well. I think that's a really good base to become like a starting defensive tackle in the league. I think he's projected to be around third round pick right now. So yeah, so I wouldn't expect him to be a day one starter. Maybe he is, but I think he can definitely become that. I really liked him.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him to be honest, but when you mentioned that explosive stuff, it definitely piques my interest for sure. And I mean, a lot of these guys, like you see that they're just kind of half baked when it comes to their pass rush, and whoever pops, and you can have run defender, but whoever pops as a pass rusher, that's when they're going to see the field more because teams are passing more and more in this league, and you can see that teams are starting to shift to a smaller defensive line. So I mean, all these guys who can get off the line of scrimmage and get after the pass rusher, that's value for fantasy football. So those are the guys that you want to get. But obviously, play time's important too. If you're who's that guy from a couple of years ago who went to Tampa Bay from Pittsburgh?
Kalijah Kancey.
Yeah, Kalijah Kancey. Like he actually is panning out to be a pretty solid NFL player, and he's starting to take on a little bit more of a role. But first couple of years, not so much because you're just that pass rushing defensive tackle. So yeah, people will find their own way, but that's the defensive tackle class for this year, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with the next one. We got our defensive backs. You're not going to want to miss that one. Some exciting seventh round picks in your future. Stick around.
See that?